Hi, my name is Elizabeth Lever. Most people call me Beth. I'm a graduate student at the Conrad Hilton College for Hospitality Management. This is my presentation for the Services Management course with Professor Carl Boger. I selected Houston's for this project, mainly because I've been a patron of theirs for over 20 years, and their service is consistently great. Their motto is, serving you with pride and good food. The first Houston's was founded in 1977 in Nashville, Tennessee. There were three original founders that would later sell their shares to George Beall, who is the current CEO and owner. The name Houston's was inspired by Houston, Texas. George Beall is a native Texan. Houston was booming in the 70s, which had a lot of attention from NASA, the oil boom, and featured films like Urban Cowboy. The privately owned Hillstone Restaurant Group would become the parent company that would operate over 51 restaurants a day in 15 different cities. Their annual revenue is over $360 million. When I think of service, I am definitely drawn to Houston's. What has always impressed me over the years, and I wish more establishments would enlist, is their tag team service. You're never wondering where your server is, and everyone is always there taking care of you. Simple. They execute simple ingredients time and time again. Quality. They source the highest quality of ingredients to where any location you go to is indistinguishable. Consistent is a key component and the first word that comes to mind when I think of this brand. In all the years that I've been coming here, they've never faltered on service and food. American tradition core values. As an American, you can count on going here for a good representation of our culture. Most have commented that this is the best prime rib that they will ever eat. They really have not modified their menu much over the years, which is why you can rely on them for an American style of eating by perfectly executed dishes. Houston's promotes the customer through the tiny details of service. They will bring you another chilled glass for your martini. The tables being bolted down alleviates you with the issue of a wobbly table. The buttonhole on your napkin ensures that you won't get food on your shirt. And the spot lighting at every table helps you see the menu while enjoying the ambient mood lighting. Each section has a neighbor server that is expected to watch the guests around them, ensuring the customer is always taken care of. The brand identity prism. When it came to physique, from the design aspect, which has been known to be influenced by Frank Lloyd Wright, Houston's has a classy architecture that's almost timeless. The elegant ambiance creates a perfect fine dining environment. The physique is simple, classy, and upscale. The personality was interesting when I looked into this project. It is hard to find out anything about George Beall, who is the pioneer of the Houston's concept. What is known, though, is that he avoids the press and he is very private. He is respected in the industry, and the Bon Appetit editor was blown away by a simple concept that has been consistently executed over the years. He was fortunate enough to score an interview with George. When he was able to pick his brain, George commented, "The restaurant business is not rocket science, because if it was, I would not have made it." The personality is summed up as reliable, logical, private, and respected. When it comes to the relationship, I did a little digging on Indeed where there was feedback from several of the employees from Houston's. A lot commented on the professional environment, but also felt it was family focused. It is evident that they want to create great outcomes for their employees, which is why I felt the relationship was loyal, dependable, family, and professional. The culture. Again, referring back to the feedback on Indeed, it was evident that the hiring and vetting process is extensive. They even give you a personality test to see if you're the right fit for the company. They set really high standards for their staff and continue to push them with weekly education and testing. They are expected to collaborate with one another by backing each other up during their shifts. It seems a lot had a great experience and used this as a foundation for the service industry. The culture is detailed, high standards, collaboration, and consistent. Reflection. They have a dress code policy for their guests. As it states on their website, we consider hats, tank tops, flip-flops, and team athletic attire too casual for our restaurants. Our staff takes pride in their appearance, and we ask our guests to respect our attire guidelines. The reflection is trendy sophistication and high class. Self-image. The restaurant is set up with booth sections that do not accommodate large parties. The design George wanted was for each table to feel like they are VIP because of the seclusion they can have from the other guests. The self-image is exclusive, quality, and prestige. With the semiotic square, I started with two main ends of the spectrum, which is the influencer and the nostalgic. These two are motivated differently. There are your regulars that are broken down into the traditionalist. Those are typically your older crowd that continue to come back for the nostalgic experience, whereas the aficionado is excited about the experience and has influential knowledge about the matter. Then you have your transient customers. The bon vivant is a socialite who lives a luxurious lifestyle which falls under the influencer. Then there's the business class, where their motivation is stimulated by familiarity and being able to count on what they know. For the Serve Qual analysis, I assessed over 664 reviews from Yelp, 398 reviews from TripAdvisor, a variety of employee reviews on Indeed, YouTube videos about the Houston's customer experience. And I was fortunate enough that for this project, I was able to visit the Houston's on Kirby twice. I even got the chance to talk to the manager for a bit about her perspective. Over a third of the reviews on all platforms were positive. The 5 dimensions of service quality. There are 3 areas that they excel at, which are tangibles, reliability, and responsiveness. In terms of tangibles, you will always find the restaurant to be in a clean, classy, modern-looking environment. The open kitchen concept creates transparency, and the staff is always looking sharp. They schedule an extra server per shift with anticipation of sending one home for not meeting their dress code expectations. In terms of reliability, service and food are always consistent. Even the spinach artichoke dip hasn't changed in 20 years. Responsiveness. Any server will stop by and grab a chilled glass to refresh your martini. They will pre-bus, run your food, and are always attentive to your needs. In the areas that they can improve on in service quality, the first I want to point out is assurance. From my own experience and to some of the reviews I read, customers commented that the servers are not knowledgeable about the menu. When I asked mine what she liked, she could only name 2 items, and those 2 items were salads. The other is empathy. There's a lot of corporate policy that is being reflected in each area and not enough adjusting to meet the customer's needs. Check this example.
You guys don't go. You are refusing us seating in an establishment. It's not something that we do company-wide. Okay, well, I will be sat with a table of 4. Any other Houston's in the area, and they'll do the exact same thing.
At Houston's, there's no more than a 6-party maximum rule. When this group came with their 7 guests, they were told they cannot split their table and were asked to leave because it is corporate policy. My observations for all of this is that there's a disconnect from corporate to the restaurant to the customer. By not being flexible or understanding, along with a response that these are corporate rules, can come off as apathetic. Other initial observations. As a guest, I want you to show me you value me by remembering me. I've been coming to your establishment for over 20 years. Allow your team to make decisions from where they are. Managers, come and say hi to me. And let's make local connections so things don't always appear as it being corporate driven. Gap analysis. In Gap 1 service failure, I want to focus on the rigid corporate policy. Customers expect service to be flexible and accommodating. Managers should be empowered to make decisions. Several comments were about party size limitations, as we saw in the video, and dress code. There were also comments that parties have been told to take their volume down in a negative tone, and table time limit rules were enforced when a table tab was more than satisfactory. Another huge dissatisfier was they stopped doing to-go orders. When asked by management why, they responded, it's because it's corporate policy. For Gap 2 service failures, I want to begin with lack of customer engagement. I perceive with today's technology, especially for a reservation-based venue, they would be able to collect some data on a patron. I could not detect any social listening from the company on social media platforms. It seems that there is a disconnect on how to connect with today's customer. This leads me to a personalized service. Like the apps on your phone, we are programmed to a more personalized approach. Data can be collected to understand what prompts a guest to come back time and time again. And lastly, competence. The competence of the staff was somewhat inconsistent. From Indeed, there was feedback about staff turnover and that managers were too inexperienced to create an environment for staff to be able to thrive in. Overall, service levels are superior, but there were some comments on how this location on Kirby has deteriorated in service over the last few years. More comments followed about servers not being knowledgeable about menu items. There were several comments about the current manager and her attitude towards the customer because of corporate policy. Even with rigid policies, there is a finesse to how you can communicate with the guest. Gap 1 recommendations. Let's go back to the table size example. Make an exception and split the table this time. Explain company policy so the guests will be reminded not to do that the next time they visit. This will demonstrate that the manager is doing their best to accommodate them. Corporate needs to empower their managers to be flexible and creative in decision making. Review corporate policy to stay current with your guest desires. Corporate should flag the frequency of an occurrence such as this and have annual review process of policy. Gap 2 recommendations. Data is key. When I reserved my table at Houston's, I was redirected to the site named Resi. Leverage data analytics to give your staff cues that you have a returning guest. This could prompt the host or hostess to say, "Welcome back, Beth." That would be a nice touch to show your repeat customers you recognize their presence. Online platforms can create a presence that you are listening to your customers. By using the Resi application, you could send a message to your guests after a visit to rate their experience. I would perceive with the service standards being so high here, they would want performance feedback. On the corporate level, having a communication manager following social media to respond to complaints and create a social media presence for the company would be key with today's customer. Managers, go talk to people. With the caliber of this type of restaurant, I would perceive to see the manager doing random checks on guests. I did not witness this the last 2 times I went to visit. Servers should have menu tastings so they can have confidence when talking to the guests about dishes. This will help them be more knowledgeable about the menu because of their own experiences. And to create a local connection, allow chefs to source local ingredients that they can feature in a daily special. This will create a more personal experience for the guests, especially within their city. For Houston's to continue to stay relevant, a lot of focus should be on technology. This could help uphold the standards of their brand for today's customer. Houston's is consistent and a respected services concept because of reliable chefs that execute dishes time and time again, to the attention to details in service, from the modern and classy decor, along with the ambience and allure as seen in the open kitchen concept, to the best prime rib, all a little inspired by Houston, Texas.